Hey, this is Pat Ryerke here, also known as the Patriarchy. Listen, I love Teen Titans, Young Justice, and the Green Lantern animated series, and I was very upset that they ended. I loved watching the Green Lantern show. Wasn't a huge fan of the animation, but good writing. And Young Justice was amazing. And Teen Titans was a great show. But there's been this rumor on the internet for a few years now that these shows were ended because of sexism. Mainly that they couldn't sell toys to girls, or girls were watching the shows too much. They were too popular with young girls. So they just ended them. This is all fake. This is all social justice narrative that's been pushed by places like crack.com, which is a shithole now, and people on the internet. But what spawned me to make this video was I got in an argument with some friends on social media today who kept sharing this information, and I kept providing counter information to show them that this wasn't true. But the confirmation bias is a powerful drug. You can't stop it. So this is the definitive video to break down that Teen Titans and these other DC animated shows were not canceled because of girl viewers. This has all been made up from an interview with Paul Dini. So first, let's look at the accusation. Let's look at the theory here, and what I saw today. And this was shared all over Facebook and Twitter. And this is old. This is stuff from like 3 years ago. But people are still sharing it now and acting like it's current information that just came out. And this will just show you how something spreads on the internet. Something fake and false can become big on the internet because people want it to be true, and they don't actually ever go look up the reality of the situation. I mean, it took me a minute, less than a minute of a Google search to debunk any of this, but you can't ask anyone to actually Google any of the information. They just read something and go, well, that must be true. It's been 9 years, and I still don't think that anyone knows exactly why Teen Titans was canceled. See, here's the thing. Teen Titans was never really canceled. It just ended. But for some reason, everyone pushes this rumor that it was canceled. I don't know where that came from. Most animated shows don't run 5 seasons. Here's the theory. Same reason Young Justice and Green Lantern the animated series were canceled. Girls liked it. Bruce Timm finally up and said it out loud in an interview a while back when he was asked why in the hell Green Lantern the animated series had been canceled when it was doing so well on every front. DC's animation department has institutionally decided that females shouldn't like superheroes. So even if a show is drawn in great viewership numbers and has great toy sales, once they find out that it's popular with women and girls, they pull the plug on it. Cartoon Network loved Teen Titans. 2 million viewers for new episodes will do that, and wanted season 6, and the production staff was already in the planning stages for it. They were going to have a big arc about Tara and why she was living normal, and do a lot more with the extended Titan team members. This is so fucked up. To elaborate on the point a bit, the reason this happens is that modern television merchandising aims for total market segregation. In a nutshell, it's more efficient to sell things to people if you can divide them up into tightly defined subcategories that have no interests in common. That way, you never risk accidentally competing with yourself. This is why children's toys and toy sales channels are actually more strongly gendered these days than they were 40, 30, even 20 years ago. One of the basic market segregation splits they've decided to use is boys versus girls. Ever wonder why you see Avengers t-shirts that leave Black Widow out of the group shot, or Guardians of the Galaxy action figure lines with no Gamora? That's market segregation in action. The upshot is that shows with crossover appeal can actually be canceled for being too popular with girls. They're viewed as stealing the female market from the specifically girl-targeted media that rightfully owns it. This is the sort of thing folks are talking about when they say gender roles are socially constructed, by the way. The gender split in media's merchandising, it's not just artificial, it's deliberately imposed as a top-down marketing strategy when folks try to justify it by saying, this is the way it's always been, or this is just what the market wants. They're lying through their teeth. This is, in fact, the merchandisers dictating to the market what it wants in order to sell stuff more efficiently. Interesting, the reverse isn't always true. If a specifically girl-targeted show unexpectedly becomes popular with boys, sometimes rather than being canceled, its merchandising will shift to court the male collector's market. TV execs are so sexist, even their sexism is sexist. I'm reblogging this twice because I'm so angry. Alright, we got that out of the way, so that's the whole theory. Now here is a Tumblr post from somebody who posted this just to inform people how this wasn't true. Young Justice was canceled because Young Justice wasn't canceled because girls watched. All right, and I'm gonna provide a link in the description to this Tumblr blog, and this will be all my sources because this guy or this girl has this knocked the fuck out. They provide all the sources to debunk this argument. So here's the truth. This is why it's not true, and this person, here's a summary of some of the points that they make in their blog. Your shows were not canceled because girls watched them. Now, no matter how much you spread that shit, it still doesn't make it true. Paul Dini said that, and his show Tower Prep, not any other show, because he never worked on any of these shows. He never even mentioned Teen Titans, but somehow that got added to the list anyway. Here's why they were canceled. So here's the thing. Paul Dini was in an interview and talked about his show Tower Prep and how it was canceled because it didn't have a big viewership of boys, and it was a boy-centered show, but they were doing relatively well with girls, according to Dini. And he said that the executive said that they didn't care, they wanted the boys first. Now, he didn't work on Teen Titans, he didn't work on Green Lantern, he didn't work on Young Justice, but for some reason this internet myth started that Bruce Timm said this in an interview, and Bruce Timm was talking about all these shows. This never happened. Bruce Timm never said this. So that right there eliminates that. That's what I tried to tell my friends in this argument on social media when they posted this. They didn't care about that. They said the sexism was still there even if it didn't relate to these shows. But if we have this whole rumor going around that Teen Titans was canceled because of sexism, and there's no evidence to provide proof of this at all, there's no evidence, it's just complete projection, the only source the person uses is Bruce Timm. Here's the actual reason the shows were canceled. Young Justice, the toys didn't sell, which was how they were paying for the show, since ad revenue for a cartoon doesn't cover the whole cost of making some of them. Here's the show's co-creator talking about why it got canceled. Here's why that Cracked article was full of BS, because Cracked had an article about Young Justice being canceled because of sexism, and they tried to use the Paul Dini source as the credibility for this argument, even though Paul Dini never mentioned that show. Once again, people just added that bit of information out of nowhere. See, so they don't make a lot of money off the ad revenue of a cartoon. They need merchandising sales and toy sales. Young Justice wasn't selling a lot of toys or t-shirts and lunchboxes and that shit. That's why it was canceled. It ran for 2 seasons. They tried to give it a shot. The ratings were okay, but it wasn't making merchandise money, and that's ultimately what they care about with cartoon shows, and it's always been that way with cartoon shows. Every cartoon show you love that was on a long time was on because merchandise sold. That's why any show's popular that's animated. That's why stuff like Scooby-Doo's still relevant all these years later, because Scooby-Doo still sells merchandise. Green Lantern, the animated series. The Green Lantern movie tanked so hard no one could make toys to sell. It got made because WB thought the movie was going to be a success, and died because the movie was crap. Quite simply, WB put all their cards on the table because they thought the Green Lantern movie was going to be a big, big hit. It wasn't a hit, so they had this Green Lantern show that was doing well, but there was no popularity outside of the show. There was no Green Lantern movie franchise, there wasn't a video game franchise, there was nothing that was making Green Lantern popular or relevant, so they had potential to make less money. There wasn't a lot of room there to make money. Like, say, if you do a Marvel cartoon show with Iron Man, because there's a bunch of Iron Man movies and kids all know Iron Man. Green Lantern's not that popular right now with young kids, until DC figures something out with him. Teen Titans, it ended. It was their 5th season, and just rerunning old episodes would make them more money than the cost of making new episodes. Season 5 was meant to be the final season, and the creators knew that when making that season. So stop sharing around posts saying they were canceled because girls watch them. Not only is it false, but it'll hurt the next show that needs fan support, because fans won't know shows need people to buy merchandise to keep the shows funded. Wow. That is, I mean, that to me, like, you know, once you read that, to me that's a much more logical point to why these shows were ended, instead of this post that cites Bruce Timm's quote that never happened. Bruce Timm never said these things, and then makes up this whole bullshit spin about Teen Titans getting canceled because of girls, where there was no proof of this. Anyone who posts this has no proof of this. It's just something people want to believe because sexism, because they want to believe in the gender social construct. They don't want to think that biology and evolution has anything to do with gender roles. They want to think it's 100% something that society defined, which we all know isn't true, but the SJWs will cling on to anything, including a false story about a goddamn animated show. They will use a fake story about an animated show to push this narrative. To make the point even more concrete, here's a tweet from Greg Wiseman, co-creator of Young Justice. This guy was one of the main producers and co-creators of the show, so he would know. Somebody asked him on Twitter, did Young Justice seriously get canceled because of the larger female audience? He says back, no, that's an internet myth. Now, to me, that just ends it right there. If the co-creator, his word means more than some asshole on the internet randomly making up the story. But, okay, let's keep reading this blog with this information, because this guy makes some great points. Oh God, is this made up bullshit still going around? Okay then, let me pull out all of my big bag of sources again to dispel this goddamn myth. First thing, Green Lantern the Animated Series was not doing well on every front and has great toy sales because there was never a toy line in the first place. That's why it was canceled. The Green Lantern movie bombed so hard Mattel pulled the plug on the planned toys for the cartoon, a cartoon that only exists thanks to the Green Lantern movie. How's that for irony? Action cartoons like Young Justice, Green Lantern, Beware the Batman, and pretty much every DC cartoon need toy sales to fund the show. No toy sales, and the show gets canceled because there's no money to make the show. Here's the co-creator in Young Justice talking about it, and here's another one. These sources are all going to be in the description if you go to this blog. Young Justice toys also suffered from the Green Lantern movie bombing because these toys sales are grouped together. The deals were all grouped together. So they did this deal all around the time that Green Lantern bombed. The Mattel deal with DC and WB to produce toys for GL movie had Green Lantern the Animated Series and Young Justice in that group. So the Green Lantern movie failing meant Mattel had to stop toy production for everything in that group. There were other factors in the Young Justice toy line too, but most of this comes down to bad luck and bad timing than anything else. So it didn't matter if they made toys for girls too, or what have you. It still would have gotten canceled because of the bad luck and that shitty GL movie. As for Teen Titans, here's what story editor Rob Hoege had to say. Essentially, Season 5 was planned to be the end of the show. When Cartoon Network gave them the pickup for Season 5, they told them that it was. There was never any plans for Season 6. No big terror arc, no follow-up on the mystery, none of it. Literally, Hoege says, had a Season 6 been a serious possibility, we wouldn't have ended Season 5 the way we did. If they were getting a 6th season, they wouldn't have ended with Terra coming back. Sam Registered pitched a rebranded Teen Titans show to try and save it, focused on the expanded roster, I guess in a Justice League Unlimited kind of way, but that was independent of the Season 5 plans, and in no way factored into how they ended the show. Cartoon Network didn't like that anyway, and so it was all just pitch ideas, rather than any concrete plans. That Paul Dini interview has been chewed up and spit out so many times it barely resembles what it originally was. Dini never said girls watching a cartoon would get it canceled. Never said that was the reason why Young Justice, Green Lantern, or Teen Titans was canceled. In fact, he never even mentioned Teen Titans in the interview at all. It just keeps getting regurgitated, and people call it truth while ignoring what he actually said. Where's the outrage over Dini saying you're an executive saying, we need boys, but we need girls right there? Right one step behind the boys. Not as smart as the boys, not as interesting as the boys, but right there. Because I can think of far too many cartoons this applies to, including all those Marvel cartoons Dini worked on. Stuff that's still coming out today. Dini made some real good points about how girls are treated by executives in these cartoons, but some fans are too fixated on fake stories about why their cartoons were canceled. And this is the point of this video and why I really wanted to make it. And I don't know who posted that, who did that original Tumblr blog, but terrific work there. Thank you for providing the sources, and that really just debunks all the things that were posted there about Bruce Timm, the toy sales, girl viewership. There's no evidence to support any of that. It all comes from a Paul Dini quote that had nothing to do with those shows. And this, in essence, is what people are kind of talking about when they were talking about fake news before the media blew up fake news to be anything that we didn't agree with. On the internet, people will take bits of information and believe it to be truth, and then they'll just keep spreading this information, this lie, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and then people just start sharing this information on Tumblr, Facebook, Twitter, because they want it to be true. They read that and they read, oh, the show was canceled and I'm an SJW, and then the problem is with the confirmation bias. When you show them that it's not true, they still don't want to hear it. When I showed this to all my friends on this Facebook post, they all told me that it didn't matter because Paul Dini's point still stands, that the facts didn't matter, that these shows still were affected by sexism. And you know, I just basically said, so the co-creator of Young Justice, his word doesn't count, or the fact that the toys weren't selling. I guess these points don't matter to social justice warriors, because this is getting just blown up all over the internet. You will see this all over the place, and it's just not true. But you can't convince these people otherwise. They want to use this as the social construct argument about society that forces gender roles. And we're finding out now with new studies, they're even looking at kids at a very young age, young children, and girls or boys are picking different toys and different interests. They have different interests from a very young age, before society could even affect them. This falls back on the fact again that men and women are different. We have different brains, we have different interests, and there's a lot of factors in biology that are part of this. There's a big reason biologically why women do some of the things they do and why men do. That doesn't mean society doesn't have bullshit that affects us, but not everyone's brainwashed like this. Movies, cartoon shows, all that stuff, it's about business. These shows weren't making the money in the merchandising department that the studio needed them to make in order to keep producing them. That's all it is. It was money. There wasn't enough money coming in. It had nothing to do with girls. If every girl in the country was watching that show and buying toys, I'm sure the studio would have kept these shows on for a decade. Teen Titans would have been on forever. Teen Titans was a hit, but they ended the show. They just ended it. It was never, they never planned for it to keep going. So I just want to get this out. This is how fake information gets around on the internet, and this is the SJW logic. They'll use an article or a source or something like that when they're explaining, be it the wage gap, systemic racism, cops being racist. They'll use anecdotal evidence. They'll use one case, like they'll use Brock Turner, that case, as an example for rape culture being real and the whole country hating women and not believing them. And then they'll use a fake story like this from a Paul Dini interview and just tear it to pieces to fit a narrative. To fit a narrative of sexism in the industry that probably is there. There is the sexism, but not relating to these specific shows and why they were canceled. And like he says, if some show in the future is going to need a fan base to stay on, they're not going to realize that they need to go buy the merchandise to keep the show on. They're going to think that, well, it doesn't matter. They're just going to cancel it if too many girls watch it, which makes no sense. But you can't have a logical discussion with an SJW. I feel like I'm Dante going through hell and Virgil's with me and he couldn't even come with me for a mile because human reasoning couldn't go any further beyond this, because you can't have human reasoning with these conversations. You can't have human reasoning with these debates about gender equality and sexism in the industry and stuff, because every point they make, 9 times out of 10 to try and prove something, is bullshit. Be it the Ghostbusters argument from Sony, or any kind of argument like that we've had over the last few years. Why Ivanka Trump isn't a good enough feminist simply because she likes to raise children and chose not to run a company because she wanted to raise her 3 children, so she's not a good feminist. That's the whole social justice movement wrapped up in a package. That's what they are. They'll take any story and lies that fits them entirely, like a religious fanatic, like a radical Christian or Catholic or Islamist. They'll use that, and they believe in these fantasies. They believe in these fake stories because it makes them feel right. And they're just so concerned with being right, they don't care about truth. And for me, I care about truth. So let me say it. Teen Titans was not fucking canceled because of sexism. Young Justice was not canceled because of sexism. And Green Lantern was not canceled because of sexism. Stop spreading that bullshit. Please. Stop spreading the bullshit. It's not true, it's harmful, and it's intellectually dishonest. Check your fucking sources. If it didn't take me even 30 seconds to find this stuff on Google, you have no excuse. Shove your confirmation bias up your ass. This is the Patriarchy. Like, comment, and subscribe. Were you a fan of Teen Titans and Young Justice in the Green Lantern series? Are you upset they are over? Would you like to see them come back? Especially Young Justice, they're talking about Season 3. Do you think sexism had anything to do with it? Or did I provide enough information here for you to see the other point of view, that it had to do with toy sales? So, I don't really know what else to add here. Basically, social justice warriors are just as full of shit in 2017 as they were in 2016. Facts still don't matter. And if we could spin anything into sexism, we can. Be it Super Mario Brothers and now Teen Titans, a show that hasn't been on for years now. Now that show has to be affected by sexism. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful we live in a world where every single thing in our lives has to do with gender? Who knew? Who knew? All right, well, I'll see you assholes later.